Hi guys, welcome to December's Supplemental Happiness School video. This particular month's lesson was a doozy for me. And I knew it coming into it because I could see it coming down the pipeline that we were going to be talking about incompletes. And many of the other ones I'd processed and multiple times over. I've done Laura's work many times. But this one I knew was going to hold more depth for me and not necessarily in a comfortable way. And having gone through it, which I did last week, it actually took me a while to figure out how to convey to you its impact, this impact of incompletes on our physical well-being and the way that we take care of ourselves. So here's what happened to me. In the homework, we make a list of 25 incompletes. That wasn't necessarily super hard for me to do. There's a lot of things that I had said I would do that I hadn't done. Mostly for me, those are things that didn't seem time pressured, so they just sort of get put on the back burner. And that tends to be the way my brain works. I'm very versatile, I'm very spontaneous, I get a lot of stuff done, but I don't normally move in a linear fashion. But I knew that there were a couple of incompletes that were pushing on me that I really did need to handle, but every time I thought about them, I'd get worked up. The entire reason that I am doing these supplemental videos is for people like me who have a chronic health concern they're dealing with. And I've got a couple. I've got type 1 diabetes, we all know that, but I also happen to have this keen awareness that I am prone to anxiety. I have had anxiety in the past, and while I don't continuously have it now, I am prone to it, and I don't like it. And most of my life is balanced the other direction, so I don't go into it very often. But when you come out of anxiety, when you go back in, it's really unpleasant. It sort of stops you in your tracks. So here I am with my list of incompletes that I know need to be done. And there's a couple of sticklers in there, things I needed to do that I couldn't, I had not been able to bring myself to do them. And I decided that I was just going to do them. I was just going to do them and get them over with, because I could tell, knowing the juiciness of this particular work, how amazing I was going to feel on the other side. I knew that. And I knew that I was going to be okay on the other side of it. I just wasn't sure how I was going to get through it. And this had to do with accounting. Like, my books were a mess. And for whatever reason, that really triggers me, knowing that I don't have things lined up the way that they're supposed to be. Hits on buttons of being, it makes me feel a little bit less than. Like, I'm really hard on myself about that stuff, but I'm also not willing to take care of it. This dichotomy, right? So I dive in. I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to knock it out. And I start doing it, and I freeze, and I panic, and then I have to call Laura. So I called Laura, and I said, hey, do you have time for a 20-minute session? Which, by the way, if you go through this, if you go through your incompletes and you get stuck like this, sign up for one of the 20-minute coaching calls with her. 5 minutes into it, I felt better. So for me, what happened was I was looking at it and I froze, and I didn't know how to move forward. I knew I needed to move forward, but I couldn't move through that anxiety. Like, I couldn't actually act through the anxiety to get to the other side, to get to the conclusion, to complete the incomplete. But talking to Laura, she helped me really understand where the actual issue was versus the level of anxiety I was putting on top of it. And then she helped me come up with a creative solution, as she always does. So how does this relate to taking care of our bodies? I suspect that incompletes are an incredible burden on us. And Laura touched on the fact that they also remind us, when you have a lot of incompletes, that we are not trustworthy. Which means that when we go to make a decision about how we're going to approach something, especially if you're looking at how am I going to take care of my body, How am I going to address this illness that I have? If you have a lot of incompletes, whether they're related to your illness or not, when you go to make a resolution or set a goal regarding your illness, if you have a long list of incompletes, why would you trust yourself to follow through? And that lack of trust in yourself is really, it really undermines our ability to make any sort of progress and to feel good. So I think I was looking for something more to give you, and then I really sat with it and realized that incompletes undermine our entire well-being. For me, because they give me anxiety, and I would not at all be surprised if when you're looking through your list, you have a couple that trigger you. That's normal, right? That's totally normal. And that's where the vein of richness is in this work. It isn't in getting the other 24 done. It's that one. I'm not telling you to rush through it. I'm not telling you to just grin and bear it. Look at it with compassion. Know that when you are triggered, you are always adding a large weight on top of the actual issue. What's the actual issue, and how much are we upset about the issue? You know, there's two different things. The actual issue and the weight we put on it. The thought we have and the feeling we have associated with that thought, if you're going back a couple months with Laura's work. So be kind. When you're looking at your list and you're knocking them out, be proud of yourself for the ones that you're getting done. Notice the ones you're trying to avoid. Talk to Laura. Talk on the Facebook group. Be honest about it, because I think we're all going through some sort of version of that. And know that on the other side of it is a deep sense of empowerment. That we are able to survive, and that we're able to get stuff done, and that we are trustworthy. I also really enjoyed the bonus video about essential resolutions, and that felt really good to me, looking at what it is that I want from next year from an essence standpoint. And that to me felt like the difference between curiosity and love and shame. Inspiration versus motivation. You know, like an internal, like I feel inclined to be interested in how could I infuse my day with vitality. Say that was my essence. Versus I need to get these things done. When you don't get those things done, they're laden with guilt. And that will stop you from moving forward, and it will stop you from going back to that activity too. Because say you start it and you don't get it, and you don't complete it for the day. I'm going to walk 3 miles and you only walk 1 mile. Suddenly walking has a heavy weight attached to it versus an essential resolution of vitality, which could mean, as Laura was talking about, because there's a million different ways that could show up for you. But this curiosity about vitality allows you more freedom to choose different ways for that to show up, and most importantly, keeps you curious about it, curious and interested in the forms that it may take. And it makes you think, how could vitality show up for me today? How could I infuse myself with vitality today? And you suddenly feel a lot of different options, none of which are obligatory. None of which are you have to get them done in order to feel good about yourself. And that makes a huge difference in your capacity to stick with a resolution, I think. I gave up resolutions years ago because I could never keep to them. Like I don't even know that I'd make it past a month. In fact, getting to a month was pretty rare for me. But I do intend my essences for the day every single day. And that carries me quite nicely and keeps me a lot lighter and a lot kinder towards myself. And your body will respond to that kindness. So if you complete those incompletes that are weighing you down, you're buoyed up. And when you choose to look at how you're moving forward from an essence standpoint that doesn't have a specific form, although it can, you're also lightened up. And then you're moving through your day with less of a grind and more of a buoyancy. I hope this hits home for you. I hope you're giving yourself an extra dose of kindness as you go through. Maybe this lesson wasn't a tough one for you. It was definitely a tough one for me, but perhaps the richest for me so far. Have a wonderful end of the year, and we'll see you next year.